Hey, 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 Bo Schwade here, the man with the whip, Wild West performer, and your host for Powerful Action Principles for Success, the podcast where we don't fool around. No fluff, no filler, we just get right into the subject. And today's subject's going to be totally different than anything I've ever done before. You always, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know I just bring powerful action principles. Well, today I'm going to interview somebody for the first time. This guy's a very successful entertainer. He's actually a world-class entertainer. He's been all over the world. He's performed for years with Cirque De Solei. I hope I said that right. He's been a stunt double on movies such as Kingsman. If you've seen Kingsman, all those tricks that you saw done and all those special effects were done by this gentleman. And he was a quarter-finalist on America's Got Talent. It's my pleasure to welcome my friend and successful entertainer, Mr. Loop Rawlins.
Howdy, Bo. Good to be on the show.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm thrilled to have you on here. And, of course, as I said, we've been good friends for several years, and we're both Wild West performers. Most people don't know what that is, but if you've ever seen this guy handle 6 guns, bull whips, and trick rope, he's one of the best in the world, no question about it. And my first question, I guess I should ask you is how, I know you started really young. I did not start till I was after 30 years old, but you started as a kid. How young were you?
I think I was about 8 years old when I spun my first rope when I was a kid. Yeah.
I didn't realize you were that young. I thought you were in your teenage. Did you, what was it that sparked you to get started with the Wild West arts?
Well, I think really what sparked that sort of spirit of the Wild West and adventure was all about movies growing up. You know, that's whenever I'd see a hero or a character in a movie that had an amazing skill with a gun, a whip, or whatever it was, I said, you know, I want to be like that. I want to be like that guy. And when I was 8 years old, in Tucson here, there's a Tucson, Arizona boys chorus. And as they sing their songs, they also do rope tricks. So my brother joined that before me. And then I saw all the tricks that they were doing in the chorus. And I joined, but I liked the rope tricks more than the singing. So I just love the rope tricks. And I remember spinning the rope for the first time. Like I still have that memory of going to the camp for the chorus and spinning the rope around me in the wedding ring for the first time. And I remember thinking, this is like the most amazing thing as a kid.
And then from there you went on and learned how to do bull whips and 6-gun handling.
Yep.
Yeah. So and then obviously when you were 8 years old, you had no aspirations, I would think, to be a performer.
Yeah, I didn't even know I didn't know Wild West performers existed.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't know that there was guys making a living doing Wild West shows, like a one-man Wild West show.
Yeah, that was the same thing with me. It just started off as a hobby. It was just an awesome thing. And I said, man, I just want to learn to do that stuff. And then I found out, wait a minute, years later, there's people that have put shows together. Now, when was the first time that you performed?
So when I was about 12 years old, I joined a trick roping group. They called it a Will Rogers trick roping group. And it was also called the Cactus Cowboy Corral. So I joined that when I was 12. And there was maybe a dozen kids in that group. And most of them came from the Tucson, Arizona Boys Chorus. So someone started that group. And then I joined it, and I basically was the kid that was the most into it out of anybody.
Right.
So we'd practice, and whenever there was break time, they'd say, okay, it's break time. And I would say, what do you mean break time? This is so fun. Why would you want to take a break from it?
Exactly.
So everyone else would be messing around, horsing around, running around, and I would still be practicing the rope tricks. And so I did a demonstration. I think my first demonstration was at Old Tucson Studios here with that group, the Cactus Cowboys Corral group. Okay. And then when I saw the stuntmen at Old Tucson doing entertainment, and when I got that taste of performing, I think it was infectious.
Okay. So. Yeah, well, it is. It absolutely is infectious. And I know that, in past episodes, I've talked about how really the only way that you get good is just to get a lot of stage time. I call it putting in the reps. And I know that we have a little Western town here called, what is the name of it? Trail Dust Town?
Trail Dust Town.
Trail Dust Town. And I know that you did an opening act for them for quite a while. How long did you do that for?
Yeah, I did it. I opened for them. I started working there when I was about 14 years old, doing the pre-show. And so that was pretty intimidating, being in front of an audience. Just going from the group, and we had an announcer, to performing in front of maybe up to 200 people staring at me. That kind of intimidated me, but I just kept performing. And then I worked for them about 8 years. I believe about 8 years. Yeah. And it was kind of an off and on. Even if I was traveling, it would be a couple days a week or 3 days a week. So yeah, and that's really where I grew.
So you did hundreds of shows.
Oh yeah.
Hundreds of shows. And I could see how you could be intimidated, because it'll pack in 200, but the crowd, the audience it's so intimate. They're right on top of you, right there. And so you did hundreds of shows, and as I said, aspiring entertainers out there, I try to tell them, or anybody that wants to chase their passion on anything, they've got to put in the reps. Wouldn't you agree? If you didn't have Trail Dust Town, you wouldn't be a fraction as good as you are now?
No, it's all about just practicing Trail Dust Town in front of the audience. And then between shows, I would go outside and just rope practice, crack whips. Like between the shows, I would just practice. And people would, passerbys would just watch me, and I sort of entertain and practice at the same time between shows when the stunt show was going on. And then I'd go home in my backyard. I even have video of it, my backyard, and I would just practice to music. I was like in my own little world, just like having a good time roping and stuff.
Well, that qualifies as an obsession. And I'll tell you what, that's what it takes. I think it takes, you have to have that passion for it. That's the thing that just keeps you going when things start to get tough. And we both know that it doesn't just, it's not an easy road to become an entertainer. There's a lot of roadblocks, a lot of adversity, a lot of obstacles, and you have to have that passion to keep on pushing through it.
Oh yeah.
And obviously you did. Because, like I said, America's Got Talent, and then what would you say from would it be Circus, if I say it right, Cirque Du Solei?
Yep.
Was that what you would call your first big kind of break?
Yeah, I would think it was my first. Yeah, that was definitely my first big break. Because when I got that job, I didn't feel like I was ready for it.
Right.
But what it did is it challenged me. And I practiced. So I had 3 months training in Montreal, Canada at Cirque Du Solei headquarters. And I would practice every day. And then we'd have like classes. We'd have this bouffon class, which is like a clowning class, and all kinds of different, it's like some dance classes, some other stuff. And they'd make us do all kinds of different things and experiment. And, but I practiced so much that that really propelled me, and seeing all the gymnasts and the dancers and everybody that were so amazing. We've had some ex-Olympians in our group, some of the performers. So seeing their level, even though they're not a Western performer, it still motivated me. Like, I need to put work into this because these people are amazing.
Oh, sure.
So it was a big break. But also it was very challenging, and not all the gymnasts and artists in the creation process made it to the show. If you're not doing good enough in the creation process in that 3 months in Montreal, in our contract, they can let you go.
Oh my!
If you're not exceeding what they want. So there's always that pressure. Luckily, that didn't happen for me.
Yeah, I would say so. I had no idea that about that. We've never talked about that. I had no idea. I just figured they hired you You went, rehearsed on the show, got ready, they got the show put together, and then you rock and rolled. But you actually had to go to training for 3 months.
Yep, training and creation. They call it creation, the creation process in their headquarters. Right. And, you do a bunch of costume fittings. And also the big bosses will come review what we have so far and then give notes. And then we work on it more. And so they have housing for all the artists right outside the headquarters. And you have your schedule. And it was fun. It was a cool experience. It was cool.
That's awesome. And then, of course, it wasn't the show in Las Vegas?
It was. So we did a resident show. So we had that creation process, but then we went to Vegas and then we did like more creating once we got there with more of the elements, the props and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was a long time turnaround. And then there's we do some soft openings, have some friends and family come and see the show. And I think it's almost like a viewing, like a test audience viewing. And then we do some soft stuff and they kept tweaking things. And that's what it's really about. To get anything good is you have to tweak it little by little details.
Right.
Make big difference.
Right. And it's so funny because you're talking about things that I've actually podcasted in the past about, and I haven't been podcasting that long. And I talk about, the principle of Kaizen, which is small, little, consistent steps. And anybody successful knows that you got to keep doing that. And another thing you said earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you, is when you, and I'm getting ready to do an episode on this, I'm gonna sort of give it away, is that when you started, you said you weren't ready. And I did a podcast, I don't know, it was maybe a couple weeks ago, saying you'll never be ready. And I don't think anybody is ever ready, but you got to push yourself to that next level like you did.
Yeah.
And then you're thrown in the fire. And you're actually thrown in the fire and it's sink or swim. You don't have any choice. You got to swim.
Yeah.
And that's what you did with that. And obviously it made you a better entertainer. How long did you do it for?
So that was basically 3 years. I think I started maybe June 2009 and ended around August 2012. And we did over 1,400 shows in that period. Right. So sometimes 6 nights a week, two shows a night, or 5 nights a week, 2 shows a night. So,
right.
Yeah, but it was, there's been a lot of situations like that where you don't feel ready. And for instance, getting married. A lot of people, well, I'm not ready to get married. I need this, I need that. It's like, well, I feel like sometimes it's sort of an escape because they're scared of it. They just,
exactly,
oh, I'm not ready. And then they just chicken out. But even with, as you said, I was on America's Got Talent, even with America's Got Talent, that was a risk I didn't feel like I was ready to take.
I bet.
But no risk, no reward kind of thing. And luckily it worked in my favor, but there's always risk to things, and
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, that's the thing. It's fear that holds us back, and you'll never be ready. You just have to take that step and push yourself out there and make it happen. And you'll get better. I mean, you got to start badly, is what I say. And maybe not badly, but you got to start at some point. And once you get to a certain level, you just got to step out and make it happen. But, with that said, let's talk about, since you brought it up, let's talk about America's Got Talent. How did you get on there? What was the process to getting on that show?
So I work with a talent agency out of Texas, or I guess they do, they're an entertainment agency out of Texas. And the guy there, he's pretty smart, Mark, and he was saying that, America's Got Talent would be good for me, that I should do it. And I kind of thought about it, but I've heard that some performers have had bad experiences on it, or they can make you look a certain way or edit things or whatever. But he said it could be good, it wouldn't hurt, and I guess the people from Cirque Du Soleil, they're always trying to find talent, so a lot of times they'll contact entertainment companies and ask about their talent. So that's how we heard about it. So it's easy to make a connection, and they really liked my skill set and the way I did it. So yeah, so then they just invited me to New York to audition, and I just had to do the process, wait in line with everybody. And there was a huge holding room filled with hundreds and hundreds of performers, and
right.
And then you know almost from the back you could hear the buzzers of when people got buzzed.
Oh, do they do?
Back.
Oh,
or yeah, they buzz
yeah.
people, so they're like, so when people hear that, it just strikes a fear in their heart.
Oh yeah, just
before going out there. Oh my God,
probably sick to your stomach every time you hear that thing go off. What'd you do? Send in your agent send in a video, or how did that work?
Yeah, so he would, in collaboration with me, we would sort of have like he was kind of the mediator, but we'd make communication, and they'd ask me what I wanted to do. Because you only have a time limit, because everyone has to, like, even with all the people that come there, they go, well, what are you doing, how long, and what music do you need? So they need to get a couple things before you just jump out there.
Right.
So I told them what I needed, and also the fact that I wanted to use a little bit of fire. So they had to go through a little bit of logistics, which is nothing new for them. Right. But yeah, so that was pretty much it. And from then on, it was just what the judges thought, and
you went all the way to the quarterfinals.
Yep. So
now, how long ago? What year was that? What year?
That was 2014.
Okay, so 6 years ago, there was, there might be some people out there listening that actually saw you on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cowboy with the black hat.
The cowboy with the black hat, and it's that rocketed your career, didn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, after that, yeah, it was great to have, because usually when people think cowboy, they don't think, action. They don't think, oh, this is going to be cool. They think, oh, this is going to be slow and it's going to look hokey. But, what we do best, you and I, we make the Wild West exciting. We make it fresh. And that's what I did. So it was nice to be able to have a platform to show millions of people that, hey, cowboys can be awesome.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but that did have to help the cowboy stigma. It's got to be boring. Well, the problem is I hate to say it, but most cowboy shows are exactly what most people think. Yep. So it makes it tough for us that kind of just broke the mold and stepped out and made it fresh and new and exciting for people today.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. After you did America's Got Talent, I mean, did it get you a lot more work?
Yeah. I mean, it helped, especially the fair market. Mark, the agency in Texas, they already had a lot of fairs that they worked with before. So when they said, hey, we got this new guy that was on America's Got Talent, that helped. I got some calls from people saying, oh, hey, can you do a show for free? I saw you on America's Got Talent. You'll get good exposure. And so I've had some of those people that wanted to kind of ride off of that. But I mean, yeah, it was cool. It was neat to get that little bump, but it also made me realize that I appreciated the people that liked me for what I do before I was on the show. Right. Instead of just being on the show and then, oh, you're on the show, now I like you. It's like, well...
Yeah, now you're a celebrity.
Yeah, I want people to like me for what I do. So usually when I do a show at a rodeo, I tell the announcer, there's maybe up to 8,000 people watching at a rodeo. Right. I say, don't say America's Got Talent. Don't say any of my credentials. Just say this guy had a dream when he was a kid. And then he's worked hard and here he is tonight. And then I do my stuff and people get really into it. I crowd's on my side. And then at the very end, once I'm done and he's paying me off, giving me my little outro, then that's when I say hit them with their credentials. Oh, because I don't, because just in like a show setting, like in that, I want the audience to have no like pre-existing, I don't want them to be thinking Cirque Du Soleil or America's Got Talent before I go on. I want them to just
have low expectations.
Yeah, low expectations, but also just, will they like me just for who I am or what I'm performing?
Right.
And without credentialing, oh, I like him because he was on that show because I like that show. But I know I like him because of the way he presents and what he's doing on stage. So that's the way I've been doing it lately, and it's been working out well.
Right on.
Yeah.
And, you've, unlike me, I've settled in, of course, when I was younger, I did a lot of, I did fairs, I did rodeos, I did all that kind of stuff. And now I've just settled into the corporate market. But, man, you have quite a wide array of different venues that you perform in.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what type of venues you've performed in.
Okay, this is going to be a long one. No, I'll make it short. So I've done NBA halftime shows, college halftime shows. I even did NHL for the Calgary Flames up in Canada. So I did a intermission show for them.
Well, that had to be interesting. A trick roper on ice.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to walk on the ice to the carpet they put out for me in the middle of the arena.
Yeah.
And there was about 30,000 people at that one in that arena. So that was kind of scary. I didn't want to eat it, slip on the ice, and everyone. I mean, the audience would have loved it, but I didn't want to do that. So I had to walk carefully. And luckily, I've done a little ice skating, and I sort of know the feel of walking on ice. So I was okay, but that was kind of scary.
So you didn't fall?
No, didn't fall.
Good for you.
That was nice. And then I've done rodeos all over the country, and some corporate fairs and festivals. I even did an Alaska State Fair, LA County Fair, and that's cool because I get to connect with the kids, and it's kind of neat to see them light up when you're performing,
right?
To reach families. And even at rodeos, the little kids in their cowboy hats, like when you're spinning guns or doing your act, they look at you like you're this master.
Oh yeah, you're
like you're this hero. They're just like, oh my God. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is. I have to relate with that. When I was working and doing a lot of public stuff and working at Disneyland and Universal and Ponderosa, you just see them, they're mesmerized. Because they've never seen anything like it before, and there's a good chance they'll never see it again,
Yeah, and that's a cool feeling to, because that's like me when I was a kid. I was all inspired by these heroes in the movies with their skills. So I always try to remember, hey, they're to give them time if they want to talk or if they want to, like it's like a big deal for them.
Huge.
Yeah, so don't just be like, get away, kid. Give them some time to. So that's fun. So and I've even had like some performances that are unexpected. Like I got a call one time. They said, "Hey, you're going to go to Utah and you're performing for 7 people and 2 bodyguards."
And 2 bodyguards, 7 people and 2 bodyguards.
Okay,
those are the fun shows.
Yeah, and who is it that we can't tell you whatever, that's not, you can't tell you that because it has to be hush hush. And then, of course, they could tell me like the day of when I was there. And it was actually George Lucas and a couple financial advisors and their families. And so I did a little show for them. And so that was pretty cool. I never thought that would happen. The creator of Star Wars, So you never know.
A billionaire. Right? Yeah.
You've had some stuff like that, like where you have no idea what the next call is going to be, right?
Yeah, I did that one time. I have several billionaire clients that'll bring me in occasionally and do repeat stuff. And I remember one of them brought me in and I just assumed the show was for him, and it wasn't. It was for some senators' fundraising thing that he just allowed them to use his multi-million-dollar home, So I show up and there's Secret Service everywhere, and I won't say the senator's name, but he was a high profile. He was the leader of the House at the time, as a matter of fact. And so I'm doing my show, and I had to go through all this pre-screening with the Secret Service. And I'm doing and it's just like you see in the movies. They got the little earbuds on, and they're putting their hand up and they're talking. And so I'm doing this show for maybe, I mean, it wasn't 7 people. There were maybe 60 because there was just tons of lobbyists there. And here I have on each side of the stage, I've got Secret Service guys out in front of me. It was just really, really weird. Yeah.
That's
super weird. But back to you. How long now? I know you're in your 30s, but I don't know exactly how old you are. How long have you been performing now?
So I started performing when I was 14. And I'm 34 now, so basically 20 years.
Oh my gosh, you're having a 20-year anniversary.
20-year anniversary.
So you're only 34, and that's a long time to be out there doing it, really.
Yeah.
It is. You know, yeah. I've got maybe 10 years on you is all, but that's because I didn't start till, you know, I've been performing for a little over 30 years, but, you know, I didn't start till I was 30 years old. But that just shows, you know, you're never too young.
Exactly.
I mean, you're never too old or never, you know, you can start whenever, you know, a lot of people use that as an excuse. Oh, I'm too old to do that now, you know.
No.
And it sounds like I'm starting to lose my voice. But tell me this. What do you think is the number one contributor that contributed to your success?
I think that the number one thing that contributed to my success is consistency.
Right.
I mean, I know we talked about that, but consistency, like on a level where sometimes you don't feel like doing it.
Right.
Is, you know, you need to do it.
Right.
But it has to be something you're into, because if you're not into it, you won't put that consistency to it.
Right. You got to have that passion.
Because even when I was doing Cirque Du Soleil, you know, the show was a couple hours every night, 2 shows, a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
In between my different cues of when I had to be in the show, I would practice between all those cues.
Mm-hmm.
And before, so we get the makeup on, and then I'd go and practice all, like, between things.
Right.
Like, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's a problem, I'd figure it out and just consistently practice. And even when I was a kid at the Trail Bus Town at 14, all I did was practice between things. And when the other kids were taking a break, when I was with the group, I was practicing. Mm-hmm. So what's going to make you stand out? You know, are you going to be the person that goes, oh, this is the time I work, and then, oh, now I'm done, or I'll just do it later? You have to be consistent. You have to be.
Well, and it goes back to that whole law of Kaizen. It's just consistent, small steps. And you know, you're talking about how you used to just constantly do it. And I tell people, you know, if you can do that, that's great. But even if you just do a little bit, but keep it consistent every single day.
Yes. Because
that's how I got started was, you know, I had serious health problems when I basically hit 30, around 30. And I mean, I'm talking about, I was so sick that I couldn't work for 3 years. It was all I could do to get out of bed. And I needed something to do though. And what I did was I just made myself, you know, like some type of exercise. And I didn't want to work out. So I got up and I just did, you know, every single day I made myself do 30 minutes of training and learning new tricks. And that's all it took. And of course, as I started to feel better, then I started training a lot more. But I have to agree with you. Consistency is got to be one of the number one things. Of course, what's going to fuel that is the passion. You got to have that foundation. But because without that passion, you never, when it does get hard, and it is going to get hard, and you're not going to want to do it. I don't care, even with the passion there's days you don't want to. I don't know about you, but there were many times I wanted to quit being an entertainer because I would run into so many problems, you know, going to these gigs And especially corporate gigs of all things, you'd think they'd be the ones that would set you up the best, but they're actually the toughest. You know, they don't have the right sound, don't have the right lighting, and on and on and on. There's always something. And I tell you, there were many times I wanted to quit, but I didn't realize just how good I had it.
Oh yeah, but also it's, you know, even if they didn't set you up good, you could still have the mentality, well, I'm getting paid the same anyways. I'll just do it. But the thing is if you're passionate, like we are, we don't go into a show thinking, oh yeah, it doesn't matter if they don't have the right lights, the right sound. We want to make it a good show because we're passionate about what we do. And people have to have that passion, the reason they're doing it. If that's good, you know, then they'll do things for the right reasons and they'll be consistent. But if you're, you know, some people get asked this if when I travel, I'm on the plane and they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a Wild West performer. I'm going to a rodeo. And they go, wow, does that pay good? It's like, what do you mean? Oh, are you planning on picking up a rope, a whip, and a gun and practicing because it pays good?
Oh, that's
you
funny.
Won't go through the hell of practicing and and performing and failing if you don't love this, you know. But right. But sometimes people say, oh, it's not fair, you got to work on the movie Kingsman, or it's not fair, you got to work on this. I'm like, well, hey, it's not my fault you didn't decide to practice your rope tricks.
Right.
So that always gets a laugh on that one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because they didn't want
so ridiculous.
They didn't want to put in the reps.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. It just takes an unbelievable dedication to learn that art, you know, and not just the trick roping alone. Most people can't do, let alone then pick up the whips and the guns and put together a show. I mean, I know people that can do quite a few tricks, and then they think they can do a show. Oh, you know, I could do what you do. And I say, once you step out in front of that crowd, there's a whole new learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different. You know, when you're getting ready to do that grand finale and you've got hundreds of people staring at you, it's just like you're doing a new trick for the first time with all the nerves, and it's just people don't understand how long it takes to get used to being in front of a crowd.
Oh yeah, and you have to sort of get that later on, more experience doing it. You sort of get more public solitude where the audience is there, but you don't really care what they think, and it's tough. It's tough to not care what people think, especially when hundreds of people are just staring at you.
Yeah, that's a whole nother factor right there, you know.
Yeah,
is when you see, because there's always going to be somebody that, you know, I don't care who you are. You could be the most famous comic in the world, and there's always going to be somebody not laughing at your jokes, or not even, you know, even more so hate you. Yeah. So there's always going to be somebody out there that's not enjoying themselves. And I've had to learn, it took a while. It was hard because, you know, we tend to focus in on the negative things before we do the positive. But I just finally realized, you know, that's just one person looking at all these other people that are having such a great time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, one thing is what I try to do is if someone's being like that, instead of me being the problem, I try to think that, you know, they've got something going on.
Right.
You know, so that, or like sometimes when people leave, you're like, oh, why are they leaving? You know, maybe they have to go to the bathroom. Maybe they don't like it. Maybe it's not their thing. I mean, that's okay. So that's
right.
But it's still like, as you're performing, you're putting your heart out there, you're working hard, you're sweating, and then they're like, yeah, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're kind of like, oh, come on. But
yeah, not the best feeling.
It's part of the business.
And then you mentioned money. I mean, the money's good, but it's definitely not something you would do for the money. It had to be a passion.
Yeah.
It had to be a passion. Now, you know what we haven't talked about, and I almost forgot, was Kingsman. Let's talk about your experience on that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a totally different experience than performing live, isn't it?
Yeah, Kingsman, it was completely different because it was on set, and when you're performing, you get that instant gratification from the audience when they applaud, and it's interactive. But on film, it's completely different. You have to have the angle, and it's just about that one quick performance, and then you move on. It's just about that one shot, getting it just right.
Right. And a lot of waiting around, huh? Yeah, not as glorious as a lot of people think it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, people think, it must be glamorous to be on a movie set. They'll have, like, people with these trays of food, and they'll be, like, I'll be sitting in my chair, and everyone will be, like, pampering me. No, it's not that at all. It's hurry up and wait, and 12-hour days. Right. They just... And sometimes you're late into the night, and you're just tired out. And you barely... Sometimes if you're just waiting to work, sometimes they don't get to your part yet, so you're just waiting all day, and... Right. And it can really just kind of drain you.
Yeah. And you did, I tell you what, you did a lot of stuff because there was a lot of trick ropes and whip crack. Didn't you do whip cracking also in that?
I did, yeah. So whips was probably one of the most things.
Oh, is that right? I thought it was mostly ropes.
Yeah, well, maybe it was kind of even. So there was some rope, but there was some whip stuff. Yeah, it was mostly a little bit more rope than whip, but not as much, a tiny bit of gunplay, not as much as we wanted, but there was so much in the film. There's so much movie that, the stunt team, and when we created all the fight scenes, some of the parts got cut from what we wanted to do because
it just didn't fit. Yeah.
Yeah. It can't just be action the whole time, even though we'd like that. So, but yeah, that was amazing. I was probably the most excited person on set.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I probably was the most excited because everyone else there, the crew, they've done films.
Oh yeah.
This was Kingsman II, the Golden Circle. So they've done this. They know it's a lot of work, and they're there for all of pretty much all the scenes and everything. Whereas I'm only there for 3 different scenes. So I was the most excited person on set, and I think it was because the crew that they've done Kingsman I, and this is Kingsman II, the Golden Circle, and they've been on set. They had to do all the scenes in the movie, and I only had 3 scenes.
Right.
So, just being able to work with all these actors, like Colin Firth, who was an Academy Award-winning actor, being able to, hang out with him and talk to him, that was amazing. And they'd actually edit the footage. So when I do some of the stunt doubling, the fight with the whip, they would put it together to make sure that we're getting everything we need for the scene. And there was one time Colin Firth was watching watching the computer what they edited, and I was watching, and I was doing the whip tricks, and he patted me on the shoulder and said, "Amazing, Loop." I was like, "Oh,
that's awesome."
Yeah, Academy Award-winning actor told me amazing. I was so. And then once I was done with the last scene, I did 3 scenes in the movie, worked on 3 scenes. After I was done, they said, okay, Loop's done for the whatever. And the crew and all the cast, gave me this really nice ovation, applause.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then the guy I was doubling, Pedro Pascal, who was in Game of Thrones, actually plays the Mandalorian, the Mandalorian. He gave me a hug and stuff.
Oh, in the Disney series?
Yeah. The actor that I was doubling in Kingsman, he gave me a hug and everything. So
sweet.
And took me out to dinner that night.
You gotta love that, huh?
So yeah, so it was just, I was awesome. I was on cloud 9. Some of those people there, they work on a lot of movies, and it's sort of normal. It's just ordinary day for them. But for me, this was I was like a kid in a candy store.
Oh yeah. Which is totally understandable. No question about it. And I was just thinking you should use that quote in your promo.
Really?
Yeah, but why not? What was the name of the actor?
Pedro Pascal.
No, I mean the one that patted you on and said amazing. Loop.
Colin Firth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
He did say that.
He said it,
He did. And it was for my tricks. It wasn't, he liked my tricking, and that's what I do in my show. And so, yeah, definitely, I should use that.
You should use it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing this and coming on for my first interview. I don't know if I'll ever do another one, but I have enjoyed it tremendously.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun, Bo.
All right. Well, I'll be talking to you later. And all you guys out there, listen today. I hope you enjoyed my first interview. And remember to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so you know when the next episode is coming out. And until then, love you, mean it. See ya.